Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Mark Farzetta. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. It's wonderful to have you along for the ride. Goodness gracious. I've been waiting a long time for some concrete evidence, a smoking gun, if you will, about the division of power, even if you want to call it that. And I was going back through some of the post-game audio after the Eagles beat the Bengals for their third consecutive win. I was going back through it, and I was just looking for some nuggets. Maybe I missed something. And there's two things. One, not that significant, but I know everyone jumped on the Jalen two shoes thing and whether or not we're going to call Jalen Hurts, old two shoes. Like when my grandkids bring up to me, hey, Poppy, what was it like to watch Jalen Hurts? I'm like, oh, you mean old two shoes? I'll tell you what it's like, sonny boy. Probably won't do that. But the other nickname that came up, which is less significant, which is Ben von Sumeren, apparently is Big Ben. So that came out, and I was like, oh, all right, how about that? And then I'm continuing to listen to the answer, and then the smoking gun happened. And the smoking gun, if you go back to last year, it was my own friend, Derek Gunn, and colleague and co-host on the pre- and post-game show with Seth Joyner, who mentioned that Eagles had reported back to him that their offense had become predictable. Yeah, that's right. Predictable. That's a haunting word. We've heard that word before. We heard that word with Chip Kelly. We heard that word even with Andy Reid. Tiki Barber back in the NBC Sunday Night Football studios predicting plays from Andy Reid. Oh, this is going to be that. This is going to be this. This is going to be that. Predictable is a death sentence. And Jalen Hurts Sunday afternoon was asked about wrinkles in this Eagles offense and what has made it different. And he talked about what Kellen Moore has brought to the table. I'm not going to expound upon it any further than that. I'm going to let you hear from Jalen Hurts himself. He was asked about why they're able to put teams away now as opposed to the end of last year. What has changed? Now, for the for the people on the podcast, I want to let you know that he says unpredictable. You could see his lips, unpredictable, but it doesn't sound like it at first, and he reiterates it later. Here it is. This is Jalen Hurts answering the question of what has changed from last year to this year.
How has it been better, like your 4-minute offense?
I think the more multiple you can be as an offense, the more unpredictable you'll be. And so, we got Big Ben out there. He's had 2 weeks in a row where he's had package, and he's come in and he's executed at a high level at the fullback position, and just honestly imposing your will at the end of those games. But I think that's a testament to how multiple we can be, the different things that Kellen has brought, and him putting those things and bringing them to light.
That's a testament to what Kellen is about. So, look, I am not stirring the pot as far as Jalen versus Nick again, or Kellen versus Nick, or whatever. But it's important for us to know why you changed offensive coordinators from last year to this year and kept the same head coach. And then that got the wheels turning. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm like, okay, I just want to know who's bringing what to the table here. And yeah, so we can assign blame, but also offer praise. And seeing the Eagles line up with a fullback for the first time since Owen Schmidt was here, that's pretty significant. And apparently that's the wrinkle that Kellen Moore has brought to the table here. And Ben von Sumeren coming in here, Big Ben coming in here to help the Eagles run game, especially in that 4-minute offense, especially in the fourth quarter, especially on that 12-play, 7-minute and 37-second drive in the fourth quarter, capped off by a tush push that should have still gone to Saquon Barkley, but whatever, is wildly significant. Now, you can also say Saquon Barkley kind of helps make the decision as to whether or not you're going to run the football that much, especially in the fourth quarter, because he can play the role of that closer. But nonetheless, somebody has got to come up with the play call, and that somebody, it seems more often than not, is Kellen Moore. So then I started thinking about it even further. And I'm like, okay, this is great that they're less predictable. They're using a fullback. I couldn't have predicted that, and they're doing it. But then the other part of it is, one of the things Nick Sirianni has done, despite relinquishing play calling for the vast majority of the game, I mean, whether or not they're going to go for it on a fourth down, that's going to be up to the head coach. There's no surprise there. If he is calling a play, that's a little bit of a surprise, depending on the situation. And he's definitely doing that this year. That's been admitted, obviously. But the other part of this, the other interesting thing in all of this is that when Nick Sirianni relinquished play calling, what did he keep his hands on? Game plan, preparation. If I really wanted to be a dick, what I would do is say, well, when are the Eagles the worst? Well, at the beginning of games when Nick Sirianni and his game plan would have more control than the rest of the game. So in the first quarter, when Nick Sirianni's like, I know what they're going to do, and he's game planning, oh, that's wrong. And then they're better in the second, third, and fourth quarter of games, that's when it's going to be more on Kellen Moore's plate to call plays and the right play at the right time and put players in a better position to make a play. So if you really want to break it down and be anti-Nick Sirianni, that's one way you could certainly look at it. Well, he could still be heavily involved in the game plan. Based on everything we have heard throughout the offseason, and for the majority of this year, that would go against what we've been told. But it wouldn't be the first time, of course, the head coach lied to us. But I thought it was very interesting that after the game, Jalen Hurts was asked about what has been different about this year versus last year in putting teams away in their 4-minute offense to help close out games. Well, Kellen's brought some interesting things to the table. Oh, has he? And I don't think he's just talking about what the fullback doing out there. You know what I mean? I think he's talking about some other things as well. Seeing that motion, looked like in the last game you had a little bit more motion than usual. It had been significantly going back and back and back, and now it seems to be coming back, which is good to see because of the famous wrinkles and all the stuff that you want to talk about. But I thought that was interesting that Jalen Hurts, when he's asked about Nick Sirianni, he talks about Nick Sirianni's message. Nick's got a great message. He's asked not even about Kellen Moore, but just about what's different. Well, he talks about what Kellen Moore brought to the table, and that is a different closeout offense. All right. Finally, a little bit of credit thrown in the direction of Kellen Moore so we can understand a little bit more as to what it is that he is, in fact, doing here next to Nick Sirianni. This is highly encouraging, considering what we saw at the end of last year. I believe Nick Sirianni had his hands on play calling and game planning probably the most since he took over and was in charge of all of it through the first 4 or 5 games or whatever it was of his head coaching tenure here in Philadelphia. Now it seems that Kellen Moore has his fingerprints more so on this, which is a relief, in all honesty. It's a relief. Bottom line is, whoever is coming up with the game plan and the scheme and the play calling, it is certainly lacked in the first quarter, but the Eagles have found a way to respond. And I'll go back to the phrase that I was saying a lot of the post-game show the other day, which was everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Well, the Eagles' plan until they get punched in the face seems to suck, which allows them to get punched in the face. You know what I mean? And then they make the adjustment, and then they start winning football games. So let's hope that this is, in honor of Doug Peterson coming back to Philadelphia, the new norm for the 2024 Philadelphia Eagles. But finally, we have some attribution from Jalen Hurts as to what it is Kellen Moore is bringing to the table here. As far as the nickname, Two Shoes, all right, well, we'll see how long that can ride. And then Big Ben, he's Big Ben from now on, especially for some people that don't know if it's Ben Van Sumeren, Von Summeren, Van Sumeren, whatever. Big Ben it is. So love to hear that from Jalen Hurts. Another thing that Jalen Hurts also talked about was the offense trending in the right direction. Here's what Jalen Hurts got into when he talked about that.
You know, being able to just continue to trend forward. I don't think we're there yet. I think we're slowly finding it and trying to piece things together. Ultimately, it comes down to cadence and rhythm and how we play, and then in the end, optimizing all of the talent that we have. And
it certainly felt like they were optimizing that talent. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Devontae with the big play, 45 yards, and then Saquon Barkley. I'll go into this again. In the initial thought of it all, when I was watching at the end of the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter there against the Bengals, and Zach Taylor decided, we got to go for it on the 4th and 1. In a one-score game, We got to go for it on 4th and 1. At home, we got to go for it on 4th and 1. In their own territory. He knew what the Eagles were going to do. With a touchdown to their advantage, they were going to hand the ball to Saquon Barkley, and he was going to close that game out. Well, they handed the ball to Saquon Barkley. He got a total of 57 yards on that 12-play drive, including two 17-plus runs, 17-yard-plus runs, one of 17, the other of 18. Should be 19. And he was going to eat up all that clock. And then Kenny Gainwell was going to come in and get a couple of runs too. Jalen Hurts get tush pushes galore, and we're good to go. That's what he knew was going to happen. That's why he went for it. It was still, I think, desperate, but he knew what the Eagles were going to do. So in that light, they were predictable, but it worked. I always say this. If people talk about sneaking up on teams, and I'm going to steal this from Rex Ryan on that great season of Hard Knocks where he talked about, last year we snuck up on a lot of teams. What the hell with that? They're going to know we're damn good this year. And being great means that other people are expecting you to be great, and you still beat them. You don't sneak up on anybody and surprise them. They know you're going to get their best. You know that they are going to get your best. Throw it in their face and still beat them. Well, that's exactly what the Eagles did in the fourth quarter. You knew exactly what they were going to do. They were going to hand the ball to Saquon Barkley. They were going to run it down your throat. And one of the best images of that game in that win over the Bengals, yeah, sure, you could talk about Devontae Smith going up and getting that football. You could talk about Saquon Barkley leveling dudes. You could talk about all that. You could talk about Fred Johnson holding his ground against Hendrickson in that game. But one of the best sights was Saquon Barkley running up the middle of the field, ball in his hands, and Lane Johnson with his hand forward, signaling first down and just keep going as he's almost Deion Sanders high-stepping up the middle of the field behind his running back. It's one of the best sights I have seen this season for the Philadelphia Eagles. And a guy that I have given the title of assistant to the run game coordinator. So Jeff Stoutland, obviously, assistant to him is, without question, Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson reminds me a lot of, like, Brad Childress in this regard. Brad Childress was the guy that was on Andy Reid's shoulder being like, dude, you should probably run the ball. Lane Johnson, I think, is that same guy, but he's a voice for Jeff Stoutland, where he's on the shoulder of Kellen Moore. And yes, Nick Sirianni saying, run the ball. We can do this. Especially, we got a Cadillac park back there. It's no longer a Pinto, okay? We got Saquon Barkley back there. Let's run the football. So you're talking about trending in the right direction? Oh, they're trending in the right direction. And this is also one of the biggest things that I had a lot of confidence in Jalen Hurts being great. I know a lot of people wanted to jump on the he's Carson Wentz 2.0 bandwagon when talking about hero ball. And don't get me wrong, he did. There are things that, yeah, you can look at and go, yeah, it's not just Carson Wentz. It's any quarterback that feels like they got to play hero ball. Him going out there and playing hero ball, don't do that. So one of the reasons I had confidence that Jalen Hurts was going to go out there and actually stop with that hero ball stuff and take a sack against the Giants or throw the ball away like he did against the Bengals, whatever the case was. It was such an obvious mistake. It's such an obvious thing to think to yourself, oh, maybe I should try to force this. That I knew he could correct it because I've seen him do it before. When things were spiraling out of control with Carson Wentz, like it was done. Like, it just felt like it was over. It was for a similar, same reason, but a different scenario. Like I just saw Michael Vick at the end of his career in Philadelphia go, oh, this is over now. Like great 2010 season, I think it was. Great 2010, but we're done here. It's over. Same thing with Carson Wentz at a much earlier stage in his career, though, obviously. It's like, okay, this is over. Like maybe because he's young, he'll get a chance to reboot somewhere else down the line. But it was done here in Philadelphia. I didn't feel that way with watching Jalen Hurts. Playing in the Super Bowl and playing extremely well in that Super Bowl kind of helps that philosophy and that thought. But I never thought that it was done. And it's funny that you just stop with turnovers. You stop try to play hero ball. You stop trying to force it. Do those 3 things, and yeah, it's going to amount to the Eagles winning football games, and that's exactly what has happened. Look, the Eagles have a 7.5 point. They're 7.5 point favorites against Doug Peterson and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I fully expect them to improve to 4-0. I fully expect them to keep pace with the Washington Commanders. God. Fully expected. But Jalen Hurts has to continue to not turn the football over. He has to continue to not play hero ball, continue to not force the issue. Defense keeps playing at the level that they're playing at, and good things are going to continue to happen for this Philadelphia Eagles team. And I'm going to tell you one more thing. I know a lot of people excuse or explanation, whatever you want to call it, talk about another game where yet the Eagles didn't score in the first quarter. Another game where the Eagles didn't score in the first quarter. I love the fact that you had a 10. I don't love the fact that the 10-play drive happened or 10-minute drive happened, but I love the fact that after that, the Eagles did not force the issue. The Eagles didn't say, all right, well, we got to score in the first quarter to get this question. We got to stop asking this question, all right? They just did their thing, and they still got points on their first possession, albeit they had about 4 minutes and 30 seconds left in that first quarter, didn't force anything. And then in the beginning stages of the second quarter, they finished that drive with a field goal, similarly to the way they did against the New York Giants, where they didn't score in the first quarter, but in that possession that rolled over into the second quarter, they did score. I mentioned the defense and how well they've been playing. Yesterday, Nick Sirianni was asked during his press conference about Quentin Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and how well they have been playing to start their rookie campaign.
It's not a surprise to us because we see it every day at practice of who these guys are. And so excited about where they are, excited about where they're going. They got to keep working every day. We know we're only as good as our next game, which is the next one coming up against Jacksonville. But excited about their skill set and who they are. I think these guys are ultra competitive. The moment's not too big for them. They're going against one of the best wide receivers in the NFL yesterday, and they didn't blink. Got a lot of respect for who they are and how they work.
Doing a phenomenal job throughout their rookie campaigns. And when I watch Cooper DeJean and I watch Quentin Mitchell, I watch pros. And it's in the early stages, obviously, for both of them, more so than for Cooper DeJean. But one of the things I always ask, and Nick Sirianni just highlighted it right there, one of the things I always ask is look like you belong. In preseason, you get an opportunity to be out there, look like a professional. Look like professionals in the preseason. Take from the preseason what you will. Watch them in the regular season to see what they're doing, and they still play at an extremely high level. And on the 4th and 1, they go to Jamar Chase, and who's the guy that came up with the stop? It was Cooper DeJean. Previous to that, it was the veteran. It was Brandon Graham putting in that position, and who finished it off? Cooper DeJean. The crazy thing, again, going through the game yesterday is that the defensive back that you constantly saw challenged, tested, was Darius Slay. Rarely was it Quentin Mitchell. They don't want that smoke. They don't want that Q smoke. You know what I mean? Of the defensive backs we have seen Howie Roseman, more specifically, of the corners we have seen Howie Roseman go after, bring in, draft, what have you. To see two guys come in here, and down the line, could we see the next Bobby Taylor and Troy Vincent, the next Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown? I hope so. But as of right now, depending on what the MRI says from Darius Slay, which he got yesterday morning, depending on what that says, whether or not he's going to be shut down for an extended period of time, whether or not he's just going to stretch a little bit more and then be out there against the Jaguars, whatever the case might be, I wouldn't move Cooper DeJean from the slot. I wouldn't throw that curveball to him. Expedited the process of getting ready for the season, despite the injury that Nick Sirianni alluded to right there in training camp. Look, do I think he could do it? Sure, if he's not going to bat an eye at just being thrown into the slot corner, starting slot corner spot for this Philadelphia Eagles team in his rookie season, and he plays at a great level already. I don't want to change that. Do I think he could be up for the task? Sure, but why challenge it if I have other guys that I know can play the position? And I think Keely Ringo can play that position. You have another guy that's has a lot of experience as a starter in Isaiah Rodgers. You have other guys that can fill that void right now. I'd rather test them first before I look at Cooper DeJean and say, hey, we're going to change it up. I'm interested to see what Vic Fangio has to say this week about those two young corners and how well they've been playing and if they are going to change anything. And again, we're going to see if anything changes with Darius Slay and his status going forward. See whether or not he will be up for the Jacksonville Jaguars game against his former coach, Doug Peterson. So look to see how all that comes together. As far as it's going to look like in a week when the trade deadline rolls around, very interested to see what Howie Roseman does because he's going to do something. Just a matter of how big he's going to tweak things. I'd love to see another edge rusher. By the way, Myles Garrett's Halloween costume was pretty awesome. I believe it was Terminator 2. He was Terminator 2, T2, if you will. But as far as that trade deadline goes, this is actually a thing of brilliance. I think Nick Sirianni read this right off the cue card.
Yeah, I love the team that we have, and I think this team's really coming together. With that being said, I know, we're always looking for ways to improve our team, and I know Howie's one of the best at that, of always looking at ways that he can improve the football team, and admire that and value that of how he goes to work there. And but like I said, love the guys that we have. I think we're coming together really nicely as a team, but we'll see how this next week plays out.
When coaches say, I like their team before the trade deadline, this is what I think. When I think about coaches, when they say, I like our team after the trade deadline. Ugh. See what I'm saying there? You get it? We haven't used I let it. Ugh. The dad energy is just so strong in him. It's so strong in Vic Fangio. If I had to fish a wish for this Eagles team at the trade deadline, it would be somebody that quarterbacks are fearing. Because Bryce Huff has not been that guy. And it's sad. It's a sad thing. But, you look at that their box score. And you look for Bryce Huff's name. And, Nolan Williams got credit for a half sack. Nolan Smith got credit for a half sack. That at least half sack game streak was halted at 2. It's a sad thing. I got I want an edge rusher. Max Crosby, Myles Garrett. Although Jameis Winston, maybe the Browns found something in famous Jameis. Maybe they found something. Something else I want to get to today. So 76ers over the weekend, Sunday night, as a matter of fact, came back and they beat the Indiana Pacers. And Tyrese Maxey went off for 45 points. 13 points in overtime. Something like 25 points in 28 minutes, the last 28 minutes of the game. That's pretty damn good, right? I didn't get a chance to watch the game live. I watched it yesterday. Post-game Eagles responsibilities. Just couldn't watch the game. I think Tyrese Maxey is a star. He's an all-star. Okay? He's the most improved player in the NBA. One of the things I've joked about is whether or not you could win that in back-to-back years. Most improved player, right? I would love to see that happen for Max again. Like, can you win the most improved player again if you go from not an all-star to an all-star? You win most improved player. Then maybe all-star to MVP? Do you think it's possible? Oh, most improved again. He's really improved. And you know what? If anyone would do it, it'd be Tyrese Maxey. But one thing really jumped out to me about Tyrese Maxey, and I think it was at the end of the third quarter against the Pacers. Tyrese Maxey got an N1 to tie the game. The Pacers call timeout. They play the Pistons Wednesday. The Pacers call timeout. And after making that play, Tyrese Maxey acted like he just put his team up a point in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. And I say that as a compliment, obviously. It wasn't an overreaction. It was exactly what I wanted to see. Tyrese Maxey in this time, however long it's going to be without Joel Embiid, Paul George looks like he's going to make his Sixers debut tomorrow night. Thanks for the heads up, Ramona Shelbourne, ESPN yesterday. Paul George looks like he's going to make his 76ers debut tomorrow night in front of the hometown crowd on Tobias Harris night, the night we've all been looking for. I think Tyrese Maxey, in that moment, my takeaway was this guy wants to win with him as the, no doubt about it, number one on that team. Not that there's anybody competing with him without Paul George or Joel Embiid on the floor. But he's not only competing to be the number one guy without those guys. He's competing to be maybe the number two guy behind Joel Embiid. Even when Paul George is healthy and Joel Embiid is to the point of ramped up fully and playing. But I watched him react to just that simple. I mean, that's not simple, but that play. And I thought, oh, this guy, there's no way in hell this guy wants to go 0-3 without Paul George, without Joel Embiid. He wants to get his first win of the season. Obviously, the team's as well, but his first win also. He knew what was at stake. And one of the things that I take away from last year is obviously Tyrese Maxey's great, and he's an all-star and most improved player, and love him to pieces. And I think he might just be the most lovable athlete in Philadelphia right now. And he goes through that moment, and you could see it in his reaction of how important that game was to him. It wasn't just the third game of the season. It was his opportunity that he wasn't going to let slip away of winning a game with him as the number one guy on the team. And last year, my takeaway was, yeah, he's great and all, but he wasn't good enough to have the Sixers sustain the level of play that they were at. I mean, you had Joel Embiid playing. You talk about historic. Joel Embiid was playing almost better than anyone ever in a regular season. Like the numbers he were putting up, it was like, well, this hasn't happened since Wilt Chamberlain. This hasn't happened since Wilt Chamberlain. This hasn't happened since Wilt Chamberlain. It's like, damn, that's pretty amazing what Joel Embiid is doing. Like he was the MVP, clear cut. Didn't qualify because he didn't play enough games. Get used to that. But I wanted to see Tyrese Maxey just to completely take over, and he was great. But they couldn't maintain the 4th seed, I believe they were, when Joel Embiid went out. This year, with Paul George, with Tyrese Maxey playing at that level, oh, they'll absolutely do that. They'll absolutely do that. And I got asked this question yesterday. I mentioned at the end of the show yesterday, I was going on with my buddy Chris DeGaulle, right? Political radio host. And him and I got a chance to know each other when we were both at CBS Radio Now Odyssey, I believe it is. And he asked me about what the expectations are for Joel Embiid. And I said, well, the expectation is he maybe plays 60 games. Like he won't sniff 65, like maybe 60. I think if you're being real, 55 would be the mark. And he's like, oh my God. I'm like, yeah, well, this is here's what I do. I hate the idea that he didn't play opening night. I hate even more the idea that the Sixers knew this would be the position they'd be in and still didn't announce anything until it was way too late for a lot of people. Already bought the tickets, of course. Wanted to see the premiere of the big three, if you will. Didn't get to see that. But I also hate more than anything that this is the position the Sixers have to be in, which is the only thing that matters in the postseason. We've seen the Sixers be a number one seed. They failed. We've seen the Sixers exceed expectations in the early goings and make it to the second round, get to a game 7, and then fail. Like, we've seen it enough. The only thing that matters is whether or not Joel Embiid wins a championship. And the only way the Sixers, with Joel Embiid, are going to have any shot at winning a championship is if Joel Embiid is 100% healthy in the postseason. That's it. That's all that matters. So that's why the Sixers are handling it this situation. And unfortunately, I'm fine with that idea. I just wish they were a little bit more open and honest about it. But yeah, I look forward to seeing Paul George tomorrow night play with Tyrese Maxey and see how that works on Tobias Harris night. Are they doing a tribute video? Do we know this information just yet? Is there going to be a tribute video? I'd advise against it. And hey, I like Tobias Harris more than most when he was here in Philadelphia. I don't blame him for taking the money. I blame him for. I don't blame him. He's not Jimmy Butler. Sixers and Elton Brand bots that whole thing. Here's my reflection on ahead of the game tomorrow night. I don't blame Tobias Harris for taking that money. Elton Brand made 2 huge trades that year. Jimmy Butler, obviously, in the beginning of the year, and then Tobias Harris at the trade deadline. And I remember Brett Brown talking about, this is our third team. It's our third team. We have to be ready for the postseason. And they took it to that Game 7 against Toronto. That was the best makeup of basketball I had seen for quite some time, and unfortunately would see for quite some time. This team has the opportunity to be better than that. And I thought with the way Joel Embiid was playing last year, it was better than that. And it was. Unfortunately, they didn't get a chance to prove it because he was not 100%. Tried to battle through. I give him every ounce of credit to Joel Embiid for battling through in the postseason to at least playing in 6 games, because without him, that would have been a sweep. No doubt in my mind. But when Elton Brand made those trades and gave up assets for those players, he had to retain one of them. And unfortunately, it wasn't Jimmy Butler. It was Tobias Harris. So right away to start things off for Tobias Harris's career in Philadelphia, it is on a bad note because everyone knew Jimmy was the guy to keep. And you know who really knew that? Jimmy. But that wasn't going to happen, unfortunately. So Jimmy left and he went to Miami, as we all know. And Tobias Harris took the money. Had to be the third wheel to Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Had to be the third wheel to Joel Embiid and James Harden. And he always talked about struggling to find his role on the team. Just make your shots, man. Going through, I think it was 2023, completely unable to finish around the rim. Able to bounce back a little bit last year. But we all know the story. Wasn't Jimmy Butler, wasn't worthy of the money. Those two things are going to kind of put you in a bad spot in any city. Wanted to get into real quick Monday Night Football last night. I didn't realize the Steelers have won now. I think it's 22 straight games on Monday Night Football. I didn't realize that. But the Giants played the Steelers last night in Pittsburgh. There was an interesting play that happened in last night's game. If you didn't see this is pretty incredible. George Pickens late in the second quarter caught what I thought was a touchdown pass from Russell Wilson. He was maybe 3 yards away from the out of bounds, like the back out of bounds line in the end zone. And if I remember the play, Russell Wilson rolled a little bit to his right, fired in the back of the end zone. George Pickens caught it. His foot came down. I thought his second foot came down, and then he was pushed out of bounds. I went, wow, that's a great catch. Touchdown Steelers. And then they reviewed it. And what it revealed was George Pickens, despite catching the ball about 3 yards in the end zone, again, 3 yards away from the out of bounds line in the back of the end zone, hopped on one foot twice. Hop, and then was pushed out of bounds. Now, in my mind, like most of you guys watching, I'm going, well, that's not 2 feet. Like he bounced on 1 foot twice, but didn't come down with it. Then was pushed out of bounds. It was originally ruled a touchdown. They reviewed it, was not a touchdown. Mike Tomlin, whose first game wasn't yesterday, threw the challenge flag. The play's automatically reviewed, so you lose a timeout. That's just stupid. Whatever. Steelers ended up winning the game, but I like, how do you change that rule in the NFL? Because of course, like anybody, I go back to my team, and what if it happened to the Eagles? So is it a stupid rule or is it not a stupid rule? Both feet have to come down. There is no way in hell that should not have been a catch. And now, just for full disclosure, I played against George Pickens in fantasy last night. I would have lost if he actually caught that touchdown. So this is completely objective, and I'm being as truthful as I can possibly be. I didn't want him to score a touchdown. That should have been a touchdown. You're bouncing twice inbounds. You are clearly in the end zone. You have control of the football, and you hop twice. That if you're hopping twice on one foot, that should be. So if I catch the ball in the middle of the field and just hop on one foot and to out of bounds, it's not a catch. That is ridiculous by rule. I'm trying to think of like what's the negative. Like you should look at that and go, oh, that's totally a catch. Now, they were playing the Giants, so I also wanted it to be a touchdown for that as well. Not that I fear the Giants at any point, but it's still another loss for them. But the game ended up being a Steelers victory last night, 26-18. But I just thought that was a really dumb rule. Also, man, referees in that game, especially in the first half, damn, swallow the whistle, son. Like everything was a penalty. A lot of them against the Giants too. I just thought it was a little much, to say the absolute least. So, what's your ruling on that? I know a lot of people have been talking about it. We're talking about it last night. People will be talking about it today. Should the George Pickens touchdown? Well, should that have been ruled a touchdown by George Pickens? I say yay. It should have been a touchdown. What did he end up last night? 4 catches, 74 yards. Russell Wilson posted a 114 passer rating. Steelers now 6-2. Giants 2-6. Wah, wah. That's a shame. Let me tell you about the people at the Game Time app. Download the Game Time app to your phone, create an account, use promo code Farzy. Get $20 off your first purchase on the Game Time app. Terms apply. Before I get to the chat check, I want people to hear this one more time because I know it's in my headline and people are looking for it. Joining the show now. Kellen Moore made the Eagles' offense less predictable according to Jalen Hurts. Here it is one more time from the horse's mouth.
How has it been better, like your 4-minute offense?
I think the more multiple you can be as an offense, the more unpredictable you'll be. And so, we got Big Ben out there. He's had 2 weeks in a row where he's had package, and he's come in and he's executed at a high level at the fullback position, and just honestly imposing your will at the end of those games. But I think that's a testament to how multiple we can be, the different things that Kellen has brought, and him putting those things and bringing them to light.
Kellen Moore bringing things to the table to make the Eagles less predictable. Fascinating. Let's get to the chat check. James Alexander, what's going on? Good morning, Farzy. Got the news. Paul George will make his debut tomorrow. That's exciting. What should we expect from him? Give me 20. Give me 20. Go get me 20 points. And don't get in the way of Tyrese Maxey. Hit your threes at the same rate you hit him last year, which was like 49%, the best ever in his career. So do that, and I'll be a happy man. Sean Gillespie, excuse me. How you doing, Sean? April. Hello, April. Between the Giants and the Yankees. Sports radio in New York is a dumpster fire today. Yankees are down 3-0. Here's 0-3. Here's what drives me crazy about this. I feel like I'm in the minority, April, with this thought process, but I want the team that beats you or beats us to win the World Series. I want the Mets. I wanted the Mets to win the World Series. It'd make me feel a lot better because I knew they couldn't beat the Mets. I know they could beat the Dodgers. Really pisses me off that the Dodgers are about to win the World Series. It would make me feel better, believe it or not. I don't have a lot of contact with Mets fans, so I don't really care if they're like, oh, you beat you in one World Series. Yeah, you guys were great. I tip my cap to you, But the Dodgers did not have the Phillies number this year, and the Phillies certainly had their number this year. And the fact that I'm going to watch them prance around with a World Series parade and a World Series trophy really grinds my gears. So, but yeah, the Yankees suck, so that is enjoyable. Aaron Judge is terrible. Oh, good Lord. And Teoscar Hernandez. Holy Stromboli. What a throw that was from left field yesterday as well. Jason A., good morning. Sean Kilrain, hello. The Giants have more points and yards in the first half versus the Steelers than they did the entire game against the Eagles. There was how many yards in the first half of that game last night? It's like 400 plus yards in the first half. Najee Harris had like 80 yards at halftime. Penalties and missed opportunities. By the way, Daniel Jones still sucks. Sean Kilrain, Fangio masterclass. Since the bye week, Eagles defense has been dominant, first in points allowed, first in yards allowed per game, first in defensive success rate, plus second in sacks per game. The maestro, Vic Fangio. Sean Gillespie, man, poor New York. Not. Comment continue. Oh, second in EPA plays allowed, fifth in red zone scoring percentage. Bend but don't break. Kyle Wright, what's happening? Making Jalen complete his fakes to set up other plays. The play action, under center, and fullback. And throwing over the middle with slants. A.J. Brown, one of the first things when the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown on that fateful draft night, and they got their phones out, they're like laughing. Him and Jalen Hurts are giggling at playing together, you know? One of the first things I thought of was all the slant routes. All the slant routes. And it's like we barely see slant routes. Over the last 2 weeks, we've seen more slant routes. Like 2. You know? That's a lot more compared to what we've been seeing. And they've come off play action. Even the fourth and what was it? Or 3rd and 6? I think it was after the failed 4th down attempt by the Steelers. Yeah, 3rd and 10. Jalen Hurts hit A.J. Brown over the middle on a slant. I still love the play. They only got 6 yards on it. But A.J. breaks one tackle, and he's gone. It still put him in better field goal range. They ended up kicking a 49-yard field goal. Would have been a 55-yarder. Still got confidence Jake Elliott makes that. But, that was a slant route. Love that play. So do we think Nick is calling the first 15? That would make sense. Well, I mean, put it this way. If you're all about hating on Nick Sirianni, that's the conclusion you draw. I'm saying it's a conclusion you can draw. I'm not saying it's definitely happening. Jason thinks so, though. Let's beat Doug this week, then maybe I'll believe. Really? This is going to take beating the Jaguars for you to believe? The better game was the Bengals. You beat the Jags, and that's not really bragging. You know what I mean? They're coming off 37 points, or excuse me, 27 points at home against the Packers. And how about this? Did Brandon McManus make that field goal? Did he kick another game winner? He did. So back-to-back weeks where he kicks game-winning field goals. This one against the team that released him after something allegedly happened on the flight. But Brandon McManus back in the NFL, 2 game-winning kicks. Trevor Lawrence did throw a pick in that one. He's got 4 picks on the season. Boy, oh boy. Dougie P definitely on the hot seat says April. I agree. Eagles should win this weekend for sure. Yeah. Here's the thing. Has a coach ever been fired in a stadium that has a statue of him? Like gone back to visit and been like, oh, okay, by the way, you're fired. Bring Reddick back. Would love to happen. No, it's not. Definitely not happening. Kyle Wright, how are you? Nice to see you. Eric Wisniewski, what's going on? Deshae Shavers. Hello. Saw Slay doing his podcast, and he sounded like he's planning on playing Sunday. I don't want him out there. Well, why would he got guys
it's
like?
It's not a surprise to us because we see it every day at practice of who these guys are, and so excited about where they are, excited about where they're going. They got to keep working every day. We know we're only as good as our next game, which.
Yep, keep working every day. You know they will. You absolutely know they will. I blame Ben Simmons for the Jimmy Butler trade. That's not far off. I agree with that. He didn't like Ben Simmons. Jimmy Butler didn't like Ben Simmons. Jimmy Butler didn't like Brett Brown. Oh, what a great voice, Brett Brown. Eric Kozowski, Huff couldn't scare a puppy. Can't count out Doug yet, especially with his back against the wall. He has had his team rally around him before. Maybe it'll happen again. Hopefully not. Facts. Maximus. Oh, don't, please. I can't stop thinking about Gladiator 2. I can't wait. I say this because Kyle Wright just put in there Maximus. I can't wait for Gladiator 2 to come out. I'm not one to wait in line or anything like that for a movie theater. I'm not one really to wait in line for anything. Like, I am not a patient person. At all. But I might have to. Gladiator is one of my favorite movies of all time. And it's like when the Gladiator trailer comes on in the green room when we're watching the Eagles game and they put a trailer on for a Gladiator movie, Gladiator 2. Seth Jordan told me it's his favorite movie. And I'm like, yeah, it's up there for me, man. It's fantastic. And I was like, maybe as a show, we should go see Gladiator 2. He's like, I'm in. I'm like, all right. Can you imagine sitting next to Seth Jordan for a movie? I don't, something tells me that would be a wild experience. How do we stop Boston? The Celtics? Yeah, Ben Simmons play. Ben Simmons. God. You have Joel Embiid healthy. That'd be a nice start. My Niners wide. Good morning. Knew the Flyers would have a tough season, but 2 wins? Ouch. Here's my theory once again on the Flyers. Second half players, baby. Second half of the season, Flyers go out there and do some stuff. I'm not saying they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're going to end the season by making us go, huh. As me and my dear friend Big Daddy Graham used to say, That's what we used to say. Blame Ben Simmons. Suo Blaze. Sal Blaze. I don't know. I don't know. Same foot 12 times isn't a touchdown. I don't know how the same foot 2 times isn't a touchdown. I agree. Especially when you factor in how far in the end zone he was. Kyle Wright. That was the NFL trying to make the game watchable. Can't wait to see the ratings for that one. Yeah, right. Steelers have a good audience, though. If you could be down with one knee, why can't you be down with the same foot 2 times? It's the old John Madden line. 1 elbow equals 2 feet. What? I said that right, by the way. It's 1 elbow equals 2 feet or 1 knee. All primetime game refs control the game. Tate Jeffries. 2 different feet equals a catch. 2 same foot, no catch. Sounds illogical on principle. Right? Oh, wait a minute. Sean Kilray, damn, Pickens and Neighbors beat him in fantasy? Farzi 112 to 105. Damn you. Oh, really? Okay, let's get on the worst subject ever. I brought it up, Sean. But I won my Neighbors almost had a touchdown. His foot was out of bounds. That would have beat me in my other league. I'm in 2 leagues and I hate it. I barely like being in 1 league. But the second league is like a bunch of cousins and stuff, and I love those guys, so it is what it is. Dodgers really going to win a World Series? Yeah, it's going to happen. Still mad at Embiid situation. It's a wrap. Sports Network. The last 2 games, Hurts has attempted 34 passes, only 7 of them over the middle of the field. All right, that's more than I thought. Are you going to win a Super Bowl without using the middle of the field? You can. I mean, here's I would love to know what it is before that. Because 2 games ago, he attempted 1 pass over the middle of the field. So 7 of the last 2 games, again, is trending in the right direction. Jason Hayes, Isaiah Rodgers looks better than Slay. I know Slay has more size and a vet, but every game Slay is hurt. It's like they're using him as a Part-time player. Just give other corners play. Jeez. Yeah. Go Thursday night when it opens. That's the best time to go. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on a second. It's the 22nd it opens, right? I'm Googling this right now because I'm all about right information. The 22nd, I believe it opens. Letter to blah, 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 release date. Yeah, the November 22nd. November 22nd. November 22nd. It's a Friday. Okay. All right. I'm back from Puerto Rico. I don't think I'd be able to sell the misses because we're going to Puerto Rico that 10-day layoff. I'm actually going to take that Monday off. I know, right? I'll do the show Friday morning. Then we're getting on a flight and we're going to a little place called Puerto Rico, which for those that don't habla español, it means I think it means Port Richmond in Spanish. But yeah, I don't think I could sell the wife on the idea of like, hey, so while we're on vacation, can we go to England? There we go. Thanks, everybody in the chat. You guys are wonderful as per usual. Let's get to the morning rush brought to you by Sky Motorcars, SkyMotorcars.com. Yes, the New York Yankees are now trailing the LA Dodgers. Good Lord. 3-0 in the World Series. That is just you-know-what crazy. What is our boy hitting right now? Aaron Judge, 140. Another 0 for 3 last night. He did work a walk. Shohei Ohtani, 245 with a 403 on base percentage. Judge, a 278 OBP. This is great. Freddie Freeman, World Series MVP. I think he has to be, right? I think he has to be. The next game for the World Series, see whether or not the Dodgers will finish it off, is tonight. 8:08 is the start time. Louis Gill will get the start for the Yankees. Oh boy. That's how that one works. 76ers back at it tomorrow night for Tobias Harris night, so that'll be fun. Why does ESPN flip the regular season schedules? That's Bush League. And your Philadelphia Flyers, after falling to the Habitant 4-3, they're back at it against the Boston Bruins tonight in Boston. Boston comes into this game 4-4-1. Flyers 2-6-1. That's how that one works. Good Lord. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is the Farzy Show presented by MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Download the MyBookie app to your phone, create an account, use promo code Farzy. Get up to $1,000 redeemable cash bonus. Man never landed on the moon. Thank you, Scott T. I feel like I'm on the moon sometimes. Appreciate everybody. Be back with you guys tomorrow for the Farzy Show. Also, back with you guys tomorrow night on Locked On Sports Philadelphia. That's Locked On Sports Philadelphia. For all your postcast needs, while I'll be on after the Sixers game for your 76ers postcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Back with you guys tomorrow. See you then. Bye.